House of the Dragon time, episode 8. The sea is always right. I like using that quote, despite it not even coming from this show, because nobody in this show says anything that's quite that silly. Beware incoming spoilers. So what are the good and bad points? On the good, we have lots of scheming and politics, and it's all quite well crafted. We've also had another time skip, so the shrieking kids have grown up and gone away, and Lord is that a mercy. The costumes are still great, including the Queen's new outfit. The time skip, if anything, has helped the acting. Some of the younger acting talent maybe struggled a little, and with the time skip, they've been replaced by more seasoned performers. Also in the good list, it has the actor Will Johnson in it. I've been seeing Will Johnson on the cast list for the last few weeks and was wondering when he'd get some lines. He's too good not to use, so I've been very much looking forward to seeing him a lot more, which would have been nice. But sadly for me, on the bad side, spoiler, he gets killed by Daemon, who hits him from behind with a sword later in the episode, like a coward, while he's unarmed and doesn't even know he's about to get hit, all for telling the truth about the princess's kids being illegitimate, and it's too gory for me to even show on YouTube. I will just tell you, his head gets bisected at the mouth. All in all, this show has some very bad moral lessons in it. So in the good column we had a time skip, and in the bad column we had another time skip. So we now have some replacement actors and the kids have all grown up, and this may come as a shock, but Daemon still looks exactly the same. Is Matt Smith allergic to the makeup they use to artificially age people? Is he supposed to be immortal like the Highlander? Is there just a picture of Daemon somewhere in the Red Keep, aging on his behalf like he's Dorian Gray? Oh, to be able to cheat time like Daemon Targaryen. Hang on, is that it? Is Daemon a Time Lord? Because I can't help but notice somewhat of a similarity between these two in terms of looks, and you never see them together at the same time. Is that it? Have I cracked the code? Is House of the Dragon in canon with Doctor Who? I hope not House of the Dragon, because for all of the problems that late Game of Thrones had, you're still better than that. From my rough calculations, approximately 25 years have elapsed between episodes 1 and 7, and Daemon allegedly spent 10 years of those at war. Why does he look exactly the same? This is ridiculous! So you now have new actors for the kids, and also for Alicent's children, and the new actors look nothing like the child actors again. Aemond has grown like a weed and now has completely different facial features to when he was young. Aegon seems to have aged 6 to 7 years and shrunk in height. It was bad enough when they changed actresses for Laena Velaryon and her full and very kissable lips shrunk in the transition. And this one may have actually managed to top that. Also in the bad, they had a bad training fight sequence. I looked and I couldn't find a reference in the credits to the show having a fight choreographer. It seems to have multiple choreographers, but by the looks of things, that's all for the dance sequences. But as far as I can tell, no fight choreographer, and frankly, it'd be wise if they got one. If you have got one, you maybe need to find a new one, because sorry show, your fights are still atrocious. The fight is in the training yard, with Criston Cole fighting Prince Aemond, who seems to have turned into quite a fighter in the intervening years, or at least that's what they're trying to push. In reality, the scene is quite silly. They're using real weapons as Criston wildly swings a ball and chain at Aemond's head. It's enough to shatter a wooden shield on contact, so if it hits him in the head, he's going to die. The movement is all very basic, and it's a terrible way to train. One mistake and you're going to kill the king's second son. And neither Aemond nor Criston is wearing a helmet. Criston also, much like Daemon, hasn't aged at all. This episode all revolves around what happens at the beginning. The episode starts and we're on Driftmark again. We learn that Corlys has been away and his wife hasn't seen him for 6 years. He was injured during a naval battle. He led his men into an ambush when they went to board what they thought was an abandoned ship, but it wasn't, and a corsair slashed him across his throat. He fell into the water but survived. He's been left with a bad infection, and all this sounds very interesting. Can we see that? No? Because I have to say that sounds fascinating. Joe, when you have a big naval battle, can you do it on camera, please? When you do something interesting, can you show me instead of telling me second hand that something fascinating happened off camera and I missed it? News has just got back to his wife that he's been badly wounded and may die, so they may need a new Lord of Driftmark. Corlys's brother is not happy with the current line of succession. He doesn't want the princess's youngest son Luke taking the seat because he's illegitimate. He thinks that he should inherit the land because he's the next male heir in line. Corlys's brother is played by another British actor called Will Johnson. He has bags of experience as an actor and I quite like him. I'm mostly known from a UK crime show called Waking the Dead. If you've never seen it, it's about a crime lab solving cold cases and catching murderers. The show ran for 10 years, from 2000 through to 2011, and Will Johnson was in all 92 episodes. It was somewhat unremarkable for its time, but entertainment has deteriorated so much since that if the show was released today, it would practically be a masterpiece by comparison. So maybe give it a go if you want to see a young Will Johnson and watch something that's actually half decent. It also had Tara Fitzgerald in it, and God did she used to be hot. This is her from the film Brassed Off. An elderly relative of mine used to love that film. He was ex-military and for some unknown reason he had a real thing for brass bands. Either that or that was a convenient excuse to look at Tara Fitzgerald. So Corlys's brother wants Driftmark. The king, meanwhile, is very ill, and the queen is making decisions on his behalf now. The brother thinks that the queen will back him to spite the princess and disinherit her illegitimate son in favour of him. In doing so, she'll get an ally that controls House Valerion and by association controls their large navy. So that's this episode in a nutshell. A lot of bickering between the Queen and the Princess's factions about who gets to sit in a chair awkwardly fashioned from ragged driftwood. So if you like the scheming and politicking, this episode is frankly for you. And I've run out of time, so all the rest of that will have to wait for part 2.